another tool to add to your inventory. My name is Akshita and I'm an international med student studying the Bachelor of Medical Studies and Doctor of Medicine combined degree at UNSW Sydney. Yeah, I'm not an MIT student, not yet. Today we are back at our simulated interview series where I sit and answer a couple of common medical interview questions in a simulated real-time setting and then critique them based on speech content and delivery to give you guys some things to improve on question by question. Let's get into it. Sorry, the box was going to fall. Okay. What do you think you would find most challenging about being a doctor? I think not letting a patient's hardship and emotions leak into your own life would probably be the most challenging part of being a doctor, because we require empathy and hard work and all of those things to be able to emotionally connect with the patient, and that is very necessary to build that trust so that they are able to trust the treatment we give them. But in the process of creating that trust and emotional connection, it is a really fine line that you're treading on, and you could very easily fall into the trap of caring about the patient outside the doctor-patient relation. And if we start to take a patient's hardship home with us, then it will affect our emotional well-being, which could in turn affect how we practice in the hospital. So it's a negative vicious cycle that we definitely shouldn't go into, and I feel like that would be the most important thing to be wary of. What I would do about it is probably make sure I always talk and have somebody to explain my feelings to if I do feel conflicted. What do you think you would find most challenging about being a doctor? I think not letting a patient's hardship and emotions leak into your own life would probably be the most challenging part of being a doctor, because so there it is again, the introductory line that pretty much summarizes everything that I'm going to say. Now, when you think about it, the first impression thought process would be, hey, you're giving away your entire answer. Why would I be even required to listen to the rest of it if you're going to summarize it in one line anyway? Well, it's not exactly like that. There are a lot of advantages that you get by putting out an introductory line that will weigh out this second scenario that we are considering here. Out of those several advantages, the most prominent ones are: one, it makes sure that you have set boundaries for your answer so that you are able to keep it concise and keep it clear, keep it to the point, and not go off in a tangent and speak for too long to a point where the interviewers have to cut you off. That is greatly reduced when you use an introductory line. It also gives them the idea that you know what you're talking about and you know exactly how you're going to frame the answer, and gives a more prepared and professional look to how you're answering your questions. And interviewers will very quickly start to notice that pattern in your answers if you repeatedly have an introductory line followed by an explanation and completing it off. It's something that you can develop out of practice, so make sure to include an introductory line. We require empathy and hard work and all of those things to be able to emotionally connect with the patient, and that is very necessary to build that trust so that they are able to trust the treatment we give them. But in the process of creating that trust and emotional connection, it is a really fine line that you're treading on, and you could very easily fall into the trap of caring about the patient outside the doctor-patient relation. And if we start to take a patient's hardship home with us, then it will affect our emotional well-being, which could in turn affect how we practice in the hospital. So it's a negative vicious cycle that we definitely shouldn't go into, and I feel like that would be the most important thing to be wary of. What I would do about it is... Okay. So I had to play the whole clip because I somehow felt like this answer was relatively more comprehensive than the rest of the answers that I have answered before in these simulated interviews, and I wondered if there was a reason why that had happened. And I did find out, because unintentionally in this segment answer I have ended up using the W's and H method. So that's the 4 W's. I think that's what, why, when, where, and then the how. This method is most commonly actually used by journalists and crime investigators because it helps bring that conciseness and comprehensiveness into their report, so that they are able to make sure that they've gathered as much information as they could from a particular situation. So it stands for comprehensiveness, and using that in my answer has made my answer more comprehensive. Let's go through and pick apart where I have ended up using these 4 W's and H. So when I said what, and that's the one-liner, that's my introduction I have explained what my answer is going to be in that one line. And then in terms of why, I explained my reasoning behind my one-liner by explaining how doctors have empathy for patients and why they might get emotionally involved. Then I explained when, and that was the setting of doctors being in hospital versus doctors being at home. That setting gives the context to what I'm talking about, whereas again comes into that hospital and home thing. How stands for the consequences. So how is this attribute of doctors taking emotions home going to affect them negatively? And that will inform why I think this is a challenge. So it's a little intricate, but it's a full circle of all the things that you need to explain and answer. Make sure I always talk and have somebody to explain my feelings to if I do feel conflicted. Whenever you're asked of a problem, give the solution free. So in this segment, I made sure after I explained what the challenge was, I have said that to avoid this from happening when I am a prospective doctor, I'm going to make sure that I always have somebody to talk to and somebody to share my feelings with, so I can look at the situation objectively. That is what the interviewers are actually looking for. There's no point in discussing a problem with the interviewers if they don't see that you are trying to find a solution. Because, okay, great, you've identified the problem, now what? So make their job easy, give them the solution that you think is what is going to help rectify the situation. Now, it does not have to be a foolproof solution, it does not have to be something new, novel, nah. All you have to say is what you are doing to make sure that you don't fall into the same trap if you have identified it. So it could be as simple as, I'm still working on it, but this is what I think could help me. That's all that is needed, but there has to be some effort shown towards you trying to find the solution to a problem. Now, another thing that you will notice throughout this answer is that there is not a single point in this entire answer, 1.5 to 1 minute, where I have said a single or a single or any of those awkward pauses. Even when I'm thinking of the answer and I'm formulating it in my head, I don't use those small fillers, and that makes the answer much more professional. This is one of the first things that I ever learned about public speaking, is that ums, ahs, short and long pauses make your speeches look unprofessional or unprepared in any way. So cutting them out of your normal conversation is the way to go when it comes to being professional and being concise. To implement that in your daily day-to-day practice, what you can do is every time you're giving a presentation, every time you're discussing a PowerPoint with somebody, anytime you're explaining a small topic to anybody in conversation, try consciously making the effort of cutting out the ums and ahs, even if it's just a conversation, because when it becomes a force of habit, you won't have to think about these things when you're doing the interview. So that's it. Those those are my tips, small tips for you to take away from this particular question on what you would find most challenging about being a doctor. If you like this series, if you like this format of me critiquing my own answers, make sure to like this video and share it around to whoever you think might find this useful. If there are any particular interview questions that you want answered in this format and have me critique it, comment down below, let me know what they are. And if you found any value from these videos and want to see more of them, subscribe to this channel, make this inventory your own. But until next Friday,